Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It really helps YouTube recommend more stories like this one to you. Alright, let's jump right in. The second I stepped into aisle 5, I knew something was off. The lights overhead flickered in that lazy, uneven way they do when the power's dying, and the hum of the fluorescent bulbs made my skin crawl. It wasn't the usual late-night emptiness of Walmart. No, this felt different, like the store was holding its breath. I had just finished stocking shelves for the overnight shift. Most nights it's quiet, just the occasional cart rolling by or the intercom buzzing. Tonight, though, I felt watched. I shook it off, blaming my imagination, and focused on the boxes in front of me. That's when I saw her, a greeter, standing by the end cap near the entrance. But the store was closed to customers. We never had greeters on the overnight shift. She waved at me, smile wide, teeth too perfect, eyes locked onto mine. My stomach twisted, I froze. Her wave didn't feel like a greeting. It felt knowing. She was already there before I looked, and yet she hadn't been there a second ago. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and looked back. Empty. No one. Just the dimly lit aisle and the faint smell of cleaning chemicals lingering from the night before. I tried to focus on the boxes. My hands shook. That's when I heard it. The softest shuffle, like someone dragging their shoes across the tile. I whipped around. Nothing. Just my reflection in the glossy floor. My breath was sharp in the still air. I convinced myself I was overreacting. Just nerves. The fluorescent hum made everyone feel jumpy, right? But as I moved toward the freezer section, I felt it again. Eyes on me. Heavy, deliberate. I turned and there she was. The greeter. Smiling. Standing perfectly still like a mannequin come to life. "Long night, huh?" she said. Her voice soft but too close, echoing slightly even though the aisle was empty. My throat went dry. I whispered, "You're not supposed to be here." She tilted her head and my stomach sank. "I always am," she said. I ran to the back aisle, heart hammering, but every corner I turned, every shelf I passed, I caught glimpses of her. Always at the edge of my vision. Always smiling. Never moving like a normal person. And the hum of the lights started to sync with my heartbeat. Thump, flicker. Thump, flicker. I ducked behind a cart, pressed myself to the metal, trying not to breathe. The smell of bleach and plastic burned in my nose, but beneath it, something else. Something damp, metallic like cold iron. She was closer than ever. I could feel it pressing against the air. Then the intercom crackled. "Looking for something?" It was her voice. No one else was on the floor. I bolted toward the emergency exit, but the doors were locked. My key card didn't work. Panic clawed at me. The lights dimmed. Shadows stretched, lengthening, twisting. She appeared at the far end of the aisle. Then closer still. No sound of footsteps. Just that smile. I ducked into the stockroom, slammed the door, and leaned against it, gasping. The air was hot, stifling, and smelled of cardboard and chemicals. My phone was in my pocket. I called the manager. Line dead, nothing, just static. Then scored a soft tapping on the metal door, slow, patient. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps. I held my breath. The metal door handle rattled. I ran toward the storage racks, weaving between boxes, heart threatening to burst. The sound of soft laughter echoed through the empty store, the kind that makes your stomach drop and your skin crawl at the same time. I reached the back loading dock and slammed the door open. Freedom, I thought, but she was there, standing under the dim light of the parking lot, waving. That same hollow, perfect smile. No shadow, no body, just her. And then she tilted her head and the lights inside the store flickered, and I swear I saw dozens of her reflections in the glass doors, each one waving. I didn't stop running. My car, my hands on the wheel, the engine roaring to life. I looked back. The store was empty. No sign of her. Just the flickering lights, humming like nothing had happened. The next morning, the manager told me no one had been scheduled to work in that section overnight. No greeter, no cleaning crew, no other employees. Just me. I laughed nervously, trying to shake it off. Maybe exhaustion, maybe imagination. But I can't forget that smile. Sometimes when I drive past that Walmart at night, I swear I see her in the windows waving, waiting for the doors to open again. And I know, if I ever go back, she'll still be there. I knew something was off the second I saw him in aisle 7. I was restocking the snack section, and every time I turned a corner, there he was, standing by a cart staring. Not at the shelves, not at products, at me. At first I thought I was imagining things, maybe exhaustion from the overnight shift. But then I noticed a pattern. Every aisle I walked into, there he was, always in my peripheral vision. Sometimes leaning casually on a cart, sometimes just standing perfectly still, eyes locked on me. My stomach dropped, cold sweat prickling my back. I tried to tell myself it wasn't a big deal. Maybe he was another employee. But something in the way he watched me, too quiet, too focused, made my chest tighten. He never smiled, never blinked, just observed. I ducked behind a pallet of soda, hoping he'd move on. My hands shook as I adjusted boxes, listening for any sound. Nothing. The hum of the lights overhead felt deafening. Then I heard it, a cart rolling softly across the tile. Not pushed. Rolling on its own, I peeked out. He was gone. I blinked, and then there he was at the end of the aisle, staring like he had teleported. My heart slammed. I tried walking faster, telling myself he'd leave me alone. He didn't. He mirrored my movements, shadowing me down every aisle. I ducked into the break room, slammed the door, and pressed my back to it. I could hear him outside, shuffling slowly, no words. Just the faint scrape of rubber wheels across the floor. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I thought maybe it was a coworker texting. I checked it, nothing. The sound of a cart hitting the wall made me jump. Then the faintest whisper, just on the edge of hearing, "Can't hide." My stomach turned. My pulse was pounding in my ears. I pressed myself against the door, trying to disappear. Finally, I worked up the nerve to peek out. The aisle was empty. Nothing but shelves and fluorescent light. I exhaled slowly. Relief washed over me, until I saw the cart. It was at the very end of the aisle, empty. But there were handprints smeared across the handle, too small to be mine. I ran toward the front of the store, toward the exit, and saw him standing near the doors. Just standing. Watching. He didn't move as I sprinted past him, didn't react, didn't even blink. It was like he existed only to follow me, not interact, just be there. The doors slid open automatically, and I ran into the night, heart racing, lungs burning. I didn't stop until I got to my car. I looked back at the store. Nothing. No lights flickering, no movement, no cart. Just the normal quiet hum of the early morning. I told my manager the next day, trying to sound calm. He frowned and said no one else was scheduled for the floor that night. No employees, no visitors, just me. I haven't been able to shake the feeling since. Every time I pass that Walmart at night, I swear I see a cart moving on its own just at the edge of my vision. And I know without a doubt if I walked in, he'd still be there waiting. The scanner started beeping before I even noticed the first item on the conveyor belt. Not the usual beep, sharp and predictable, but a long, almost mournful tone that made my skin crawl. I looked down at the cart and froze. The items weren't mine. Or at least they weren't the items I'd just stocked. A box of cereal I'd never seen. A frozen pizza with my name scribbled on it in messy handwriting. A pack of batteries labeled with my apartment number. My hands shook as I reached to touch them. The labels were sticky, damp, almost warm. I looked around the empty checkout lane. No other employees. No customers, just me. And the scanner still beeping, echoing through the silence of the store. I tried to call the manager on my walkie-talkie. Dead air. Static, then silence. The next beep made me jump. I looked down. Every item on the conveyor now had a picture. A picture of my apartment, my front door, my living room, my bedroom. I gagged at the thought of someone being inside while I was here. My stomach turned, heart pounding in my ears. I ran to the intercom. "Hello, is anyone there?" My voice shook, bouncing off the fluorescent aisles. Silence. Then soft laughter, almost a whisper from the speaker above. "We know you're here." I spun around. The store was empty, but the lights flickered, casting long shadows that didn't match the shelves. I could hear the faint shuffle of footsteps behind me, but every time I turned, there was nothing. Just the conveyor belt, the scanner, and those pictures of my life staring back at me. I tried to leave through the exit, but the doors wouldn't budge. My badge didn't work. Panic clawed at my chest. I ran back to the checkout, hoping to barricade myself behind the counters, but the items on the conveyor had multiplied. More pictures. My car, my mailbox, me standing at the aisle a second ago, captured in each image. A shadow moved in the corner of the store just at the edge of my vision. I whipped my head, empty. But the shadow stayed, longer than it should. It stretched across the aisle like it had a life of its own. Then the scanner's tone shifted. High, sharp, insistent. I couldn't look away. The images on the items were changing now. My face twisted in fear, mouth open in a silent scream. My hands reaching for the checkout like I was trapped. I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet. The intercom crackled again. You can't hide from us. My hands trembled and my eyes darted across the store. I tried the back door, the stockroom, the emergency exit. Nothing opened. And then I realized the lights were dimming, and in each flicker I thought I saw someone, or something, standing right behind me. I bolted to the produce aisle, grabbing a broom from the stock cart to feel safer. The smell of oranges and spilled milk mixed with the chemical cleaner, making my head spin. But it didn't matter. Every corner I turned, every aisle I ran down, the scanner's tone followed, echoing in my ears, syncing with my heartbeat. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably minutes, I lunged for the front doors again. This time they slid open. Cold night air hit my face, sharp and shocking. I didn't look back as I ran to my car, fumbling with the keys, hands slick with sweat. I made it home, locked every door, triple-checked the windows. My apartment was empty, normal, nothing out of place, but I couldn't shake the image of my own terrified face on that scanner, or the feeling that someone somewhere had been watching me all along. And the worst part? Every time my phone buzzes, I swear I hear that same long, mournful beep in the background like a warning, we're still here. This story builds slow. Claustrophobic horror, ordinary store tools, scanner. Labels become threatening. Fear escalates subtly, and the ending leaves lingering unease. The next story in your sequence is frozen in the dairy section. I can write that next in the same immersive first-person style. Shall I continue with it? The moment I stepped into the dairy aisle, a cold draft hit me that didn't make sense. The store's AC was broken, and the freezers themselves shouldn't have been enough to make my skin crawl. But it wasn't just cold, it felt alive, like something was pressing against me through the air. I was checking dates on the milk cartons, trying to focus, when I heard a faint scraping sound, slow, deliberate, like nails dragging across the metal floor. I froze, heart hammering. There's nothing in the dairy section except me and the hum of the freezers, and yet I could hear it. I turned quickly, expecting maybe a maintenance worker. Nothing. Empty aisles stretched before me, silent except for the low hum of the refrigeration units. I shook my head. Just nerves, just exhaustion. But the sensation of being watched didn't leave. Then I saw it. Movement behind the glass of the freezers. A hand pressed against the inside, pale and wet, fingers spread unnaturally wide. My breath hitched. I stumbled back. The hand didn't move, didn't react to me, but the glass fogged as if someone or something was breathing. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a mannequin, a reflection, a shadow. But then the glass rattled, hard. The sound echoed off the tile, sharp and metallic. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. My legs felt like lead, and every instinct screamed to run. A voice whispered, soft and almost casual. "Don't move." I spun around. No one, just rows of yogurt and cheese. The hum of the freezers seemed louder now, vibrating in my chest. I could smell the faint scent of spoiled milk, or maybe something more metallic like blood. My stomach churned. I edged toward the end of the aisle, trying to keep my eyes on the freezer doors. And then I saw it. Another hand pressing against the glass, closer to me this time. I froze, my legs trembled. I wanted to scream, but my voice was stuck in my throat. The lights flickered, then dimmed. Shadows stretched across the aisle, moving like smoke. The hand disappeared from the glass, but I could feel it. Something cold brushing past my arm. I stumbled backward, tripping over a box of frozen vegetables, hitting the floor hard. Pain shot up my side, but I didn't care. I scrambled up and ran. I ran to the back of the store, heart hammering, sweat soaking my shirt. Every step echoed in the empty aisles. I tried to tell myself I imagined it, that it was just the stress of the night shift. But the metallic tang in the air, the cold that clung to my skin, the quiet dragging sound behind me. None of it was normal. I finally made it to the emergency exit. The door was locked. My keycard didn't work. My hands shook as I pounded on it, shouting for anyone. Nothing. Silence. Then the faintest tap on the other side. soft enough that I almost didn't hear it, like a fingernail brushing the metal. I pressed my back against the door, trembling. The tapping grew faster, then stopped abruptly. A whisper from the dark aisle behind me. "You can't leave." My stomach dropped. I didn't look. I didn't move. I just pressed my eyes shut, praying it was over. Eventually, I heard footsteps recede, slow, measured. The cold air in the aisle lifted slightly. I didn't wait. When my manager arrived the next morning, I was still shaking, telling him what happened. He frowned, confused. No one else had been on the floor that night. No janitors. No other employees. Just me. I haven't been back since. But sometimes in the middle of the night I can feel the cold press against my skin again. And I swear I hear that slow, deliberate scraping coming from the freezers. I was stacking shelves in aisle 9 when the intercom crackled to life. At first I ignored it. The system often sputtered static and garbled announcements. But then the voice came through, clear and deliberate. "Jordan Smith, please report to customer service." My chest froze. My name. I've never given it to anyone at this store. Not the manager, not the security guard. And no one else was supposed to be working this late. I froze mid-stock, boxes trembling in my hands. The store was empty. Every aisle stretched quiet and dimly lit. The fluorescent bulbs flickered softly overhead, casting long shadows that twisted like fingers across the floor. I swallowed, trying to convince myself it was a mistake. Maybe someone playing a prank? But the calmness in that voice, it wasn't joking. I started moving toward customer service, heart pounding. Each step echoed through the empty store, my own breath loud in my ears. And then I noticed something. Every single cart in the aisles was turned toward me, even the ones I hadn't touched. Just watching. The intercom clicked again. "Don't be afraid, Jordan. We just want to see you." I stopped dead. Cold ran down my spine. I could smell the faint bleach from the cleaning crew that had supposedly left hours ago. But under it, something else. Something wet, iron-like. My stomach twisted. I ran toward the back, toward the security office, hoping someone was there. The hum of the lights intensified. Like the store itself was breathing, pulsing around me. Every corner I turned, every aisle I ran down, I felt it. The sense that something was sliding along the walls just out of sight. Another crackle from the intercom. "You can't hide, Jordan. We're everywhere." I dove into the stockroom, slamming the metal door behind me. Boxes stacked precariously around me. The smell of cardboard and cleaning chemicals thickened my nose. My phone buzzed. I checked it. Nothing. Just a dead screen and the faint echo of that voice in my mind. I tried to find a back exit, a fire door, anything. But each route led me in circles. The fluorescent lights flickered faster now, shadows leaping and twisting unnaturally. I could feel the weight of eyes on me all around. And then I realized the announcements weren't coming just from the intercom. They were coming from everywhere. Overhead lights, speakers, even my own phone. I had no choice but to run back toward the front. My legs felt like lead, my lungs on fire. The lights in the entrance flickered one last time, and I swear I saw dozens of faint, blurry figures standing just beyond the doors. Their faces smiling, all of them whispering my name. The automatic doors slid open. I bolted into the parking lot, heart hammering, sweat stinging my eyes. I didn't look back. Not until I was several blocks away, sitting in my car, shaking and gasping for breath. The store was quiet, normal, but my name echoed in my ears like a warning. They're watching. They know you. Even now, weeks later, I can't go near a store after dark without that voice creeping into my mind. And sometimes when I hear the faint hum of a speaker, just static, I swear I hear, "Jordan, we see you." I didn't notice it at first. Just a normal night, restocking the snack aisle, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. But then my shopping cart started moving slowly, smoothly on its own. I froze. My hands gripped the handle. It wasn't rolling over a slope or uneven tile. It was flat, the wheels just gliding. I muttered to myself, tried to convince myself I was imagining it, but then it nudged me forward, toward the back of the store in the exact direction I hadn't planned to go. I leaned over to grab a box of chips, thinking maybe I accidentally nudged it. The cart moved again, faster this time. I yelped and jumped back. My heart was hammering. The hum of the lights sounded louder, almost urgent, vibrating through my chest. I could see it now. Inside the cart, dark shapes shifting. Not shadows from the lights. Actual black forms, slithering, stretching, almost alive. I blinked and the shapes pressed together, forming indistinct human-like shapes that whispered without sound. I stumbled back, tripping over the edge of a pallet, barely catching myself. I backed into aisle 10, trying to stay away from the cart. It followed. I could feel it pulling at the air around me. Every time I turned, it was closer. The shapes inside seemed to stare at me, not with eyes, but with presence. Heavy, oppressive, watching, judging. I ran toward the produce section, hoping to shake it off. The hum of the freezers mixed with the fluorescent buzz, creating a rhythm that felt like it was syncing with the cart's movements. I could feel it anticipating me, adjusting, following every step I took. I reached for a broom, desperate to create a barrier. The cart slowed for a second, then shot forward like it had been waiting, wheels squealing against the tile. The dark shape surged forward, pressing against the sides, writhing, whispering my name in a language I didn't understand but felt deep in my bones. I turned the corner toward the checkout lane, thinking I could barricade myself behind the counters. The cart cornered me, sliding silently now, hovering like it was alive. My legs shook. I could smell the faint metallic scent of it, like iron mixed with wet earth. Panic clawed at my chest, then it stopped. Silent, motionless. The shapes seemed to merge into the darkness of the cart. I crouched low, holding my breath. For a moment, it felt like the store itself had stopped, holding its breath with me. I bolted for the emergency exit. The doors slid open and I sprinted into the parking lot. The cart didn't follow. I didn't look back until I was several blocks away, chest heaving, knees weak, hands slick with sweat. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I had seen. I haven't been back since, but sometimes when I pass that Walmart at night, I swear I see the dark shape of a cart, silently gliding across the empty parking lot, waiting for someone stupid enough to wander alone. The store was quiet, quieter than usual. I was finishing up some restocking in the back aisles when I noticed the janitors had disappeared. Normally, there's a faint sound of mops squeaking or the vacuum humming, but tonight, silence. At first, I thought maybe they had just gone on a break, but the carts they'd been using were still in the middle of the aisles, abandoned, and the smell of cleaning chemicals was stronger than ever, almost choking. It made my eyes water. I shivered. Something wasn't right. I started walking toward the front, thinking to check the break room when I heard it. Soft footsteps echoing in the distance. Not fast, not hurried, but deliberate, slow, heavy. I stopped, held my breath. The footsteps got closer. Then I heard the unmistakable squeak of a mop dragging across the tile, though no one was there. I spun around. The aisles were empty. Just my shadow stretching across the floor under the flickering fluorescent lights. Then I heard voices. Whispering. Names. At first I thought it was just my imagination. But they weren't calling me. The voices weren't human. They were distorted, overlapping, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was like the air itself was speaking. I tried to move toward the front doors. The lights flickered violently, then dimmed. The footsteps and whispers seemed to be following me now. Every time I turned a corner, the echoes of cleaning tools scraping the floor followed, but there was no one there. I ran toward the break room, hoping to find someone, anyone. The door was locked. My phone didn't work. Every time I tried to call out, the whispering got louder, almost right in my ear. My skin crawled. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would break through my ribs. I finally hid behind a row of pallets in the stockroom. The smell of chemicals mixed with something metallic, faint but unmistakable. A mop rolled slowly past me like it had a mind of its own. I couldn't breathe. My hands were clammy. I pressed my back flat against the cold metal shelving. The footsteps stopped suddenly. Silence. I dared a peek. Nothing. But then I saw movement in the reflection of a stainless steel shelf. Dozens of faint, shadowy figures moving along the aisles, whispering, wiping, scrubbing. They were everywhere, cleaning but not cleaning anything I could see. I ran again toward the front doors. The lights flickered on. The store was empty. The carts were all neatly lined up. The mops were standing upright, untouched. No sound, no whispers. Just the faint smell of chemicals lingering in the air. I left and never looked back. My manager said no one else had been scheduled that night. No cleaning crew, no janitors, just me. But I can't shake the feeling I wasn't alone. Sometimes when I pass by at night, I swear I can hear faint mopping and whispers coming from the empty aisles. reminding me that the night crew never really leaves. I had been working the overnight shift for about 6 months, and I thought I had seen it all. Creepy customers, weird sounds, the occasional intercom glitch. It all felt normal after a while. Until the night I was assigned to the frozen meat section. That aisle, I still can't get it out of my head. It started the second I stepped in. The freezer doors hissed open and the cold hit me like a wall. Not the usual chill from the refrigeration units, this was deeper, almost unnatural. My breath fogged in the air, and the fluorescent lights above flickered like they were struggling to stay on. Something about that aisle always felt wrong. I was straightening packages of chicken, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling in my stomach, when I noticed movement in the glass door reflection. I froze. My own reflection stared back at me, but then it smiled. Not me, not my face. The reflection's grin was too wide, too deliberate, stretching its mouth in a way I didn't. I spun around. Empty aisle. Just frozen meat neatly stacked. My chest tightened, pulse racing. I blinked. The reflection in the glass door, my reflection, was normal again. My hands shook. I'm just tired, I muttered to myself. It's nothing, but the feeling didn't leave. Something was watching me. Heavy, cold, patient. I could smell something faint, like iron mixed with the bleach from earlier cleaning lingering under the usual scent of frozen meat. I shook my head, tried to focus, and reached for a package of ground beef. That's when I noticed it. The package moved. It shifted in the freezer, sliding slightly as if nudged from the inside. My fingers trembled as I grabbed it. Nothing happened. I let out a shaky breath. Probably a draft, I told myself. The freezer doors hissed behind me. I turned, empty, again. I started stalking the next shelf. That's when I heard it, a soft, wet noise. Not a thud, not a scrape, but a low, gurgling, sucking sound coming from inside the freezer. I froze, my hand on the shelf, heart hammering in my throat. Hello? My voice cracked, no answer. Just the sound again, closer, like something alive inside the glass. My stomach turned. I wanted to leave, but my legs felt glued to the floor. Something in the air. It felt heavy, thick, like it was pressing down on me. I edged toward the next freezer, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. Maybe I was overworked. Maybe the night shift had finally broken me. But the sound followed. It wasn't in one freezer, it moved, sliding across the aisle, shifting from one unit to the next. Slow, deliberate, alive. I reached for my phone to call the manager, and the screen lit up with a photo. My bedroom. My bed, my closet, my window. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the phone. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold it. I ran my thumb across the screen. Nothing changed. Every image, every angle, it was me asleep unaware. Then the freezer doors rattled. Not one, not two, every door along the aisle shook simultaneously. The metal clanged together, echoing in the empty store. I staggered back, trying to catch my breath. The air grew colder. My breath came out in sharp, visible clouds. And then I heard it, a whisper, "Look at me." I spun, expecting someone behind me. No one. Just the frozen meat stacked neatly. But the whisper continued, soft, right in my ear. Though no one was there, my skin crawled, goosebumps prickling every inch of me. I ran my hands down my arms, trying to tell myself I was imagining it. I backed up into aisle 6, fumbling with a freezer door. I needed light, needed help, needed someone, anything. But the lights flickered violently, then dimmed until the aisle was barely lit. Shadows stretched across the tile, elongated and twisted, and then I saw them. Inside the freezer glass, the packages of meat weren't frozen anymore. Or at least they weren't just meat. Faces. Human faces. Twisted in silent screams. Pressed against the plastic. Eyes wide, mouths open, staring at me. I staggered back, gagging, my stomach heaving. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped my phone again. I stumbled, my back hitting the end cap. The whispering grew louder. Multiple voices overlapping now, all telling me to look. I could hear breathing. Wet, heavy rasping coming from inside the freezers. Something moved behind the glass, sliding between the shelves, wrapping around the packages. I screamed, but my voice was swallowed by the cold, echoing aisle. The freezer doors rattled violently now, banging against the frames. One door swung open slightly. I could see it. Inside, a shadow crouched low, featureless but humanoid, moving across the shelves like it belonged there. I froze, paralyzed by fear. Then the lights went out completely. Total darkness. The humming of the refrigeration units was the only sound, and the whispering became louder, inhuman, urgent. I could feel it moving closer. Cold pressed against my shoulders. My breath came in sharp gasps. My legs trembled. I fumbled for the emergency flashlight on the wall. Clicking it on, the beam cut through the darkness, and I saw dozens of figures inside the freezers. Shadows pressed against the glass, shifting, writhing. Faces appeared and disappeared in the reflection. Limbs pressed against the doors, hands, fingers, pale, wet, reaching out. I stumbled backward, almost tripping over a box. I ran. Down the aisle, past the produce section, past the shelves I knew like the back of my hand. Every turn, every corner, the figures followed in the reflections of the glass and polished tile. I could hear them whispering my name, calling me back, laughing softly, wetly, like they enjoyed the chase. I reached the front of the store. The door slid open. I bolted outside, gasping, lungs burning. The parking lot was empty, silent, cold. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't start my car for several minutes. I finally managed, peeling out of the lot and driving straight home. I haven't returned since. My manager insists nothing unusual happened that night. No employees were in the aisle. No power surges. No reports, just me. But every time I pass that frozen meat section in any store, I feel the same cold, oppressive weight. And sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I see faces in my freezer at home. Pale, wet, pressed against the glass, watching, waiting, whispering my name because I know, without a doubt, if I ever go back, they'll be waiting for me. I first noticed it around 1:30 a.m., halfway through my shift. I was walking down aisle 9 checking price tags when something made my skin crawl. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting long shadows across the floor. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Even the hum of the refrigeration unit seemed distant, muffled. I leaned down to check a can of soup. The price tag read, "My birthday." My exact birthday. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Maybe a misprint, maybe someone had changed it as a joke. But when I checked the next item, a box of cereal, the same thing, another date. Not random, not vaguely familiar, specific. Dates I've never shared with anyone at work. My stomach twisted. My hands were shaking as I grabbed another product, a pack of batteries, and the price tag displayed the date of my father's funeral. My heart froze. I knew I had to be imagining it, but the pattern was impossible to ignore. Each item as I passed was labeled with a significant date from my life. I took a step back, breathing fast. Something wasn't right. My head felt dizzy, and the hum of the lights grew louder, pulsating in rhythm with my heartbeat. I glanced at the far end of the aisle and noticed movement. A shadow slipping behind the shelves. I spun around. Nothing, just stacks of neatly organized merchandise. I tried to calm myself. Maybe it was stress. Maybe sleep deprivation from these overnight shifts. But then the intercom crackled. My name, clear, precise. "Jordan Smith?" Aisle 9, I froze. My chest tightened. The sound wasn't automated, wasn't like the usual static or background noise. It was a voice. Soft, calm, deliberate. And it knew my name. I whispered, "Who's there?" My own voice sounded hollow in the empty store. No answer, just the hum of the lights and the distant echo of my heartbeat. I tried moving forward. Another shelf, another product. Another price tag. The numbers weren't just random dates anymore. They were the exact time of death of people I knew. Friends, acquaintances, family members. My hands shook violently as I checked the next aisle. My best friend's birthday, my cousin's accident, my neighbor's death, all labeled neatly on cans, boxes, and frozen items. Panic clawed at my chest. I backed up, nearly tripping over a stack of cleaning supplies. The shadows behind the shelves seemed to move faster now, like they were following me, inching closer. I could feel it, eyes watching from every direction even when the aisles were empty. I ran to the checkout lane, hoping to find some security footage or a manager. But the lane was empty. My walkie-talkie buzzed to life. Another voice, calm, almost intimate. "You're not supposed to leave, Jordan." Not yet. My stomach dropped. My hands flew to my mouth. I turned to run toward the front doors, but the automatic doors wouldn't open. The hum of the lights grew louder, vibrating through my bones. The shadows seemed to stretch across the aisles, twisting, moving independently of the light. I grabbed a shopping cart, desperate for a barrier or something to defend myself. The cartwheel squeaked as I pushed it toward the exit. But the shadows reacted instantly. They weren't solid, not completely, but they moved like liquid, pressing against the edges of the shelves, following me, anticipating every step. I ran down aisle 10, then 11. The price tags kept changing as I passed, updating in real time. My apartment number, my license plate, even my phone number. My own life mapped across the store, encoded in the products. My breath came fast, shallow, panicked. I could feel my pulse in my ears, every heartbeat echoing like a warning. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving toward me from the far end of the aisle. I spun, no one there. Just the shadows. They seemed to creep along the floor, stretching, shifting as if they were alive. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the cart. I ducked behind a pallet of soda, pressing my back flat against the cold metal. The shadows didn't stop. They flowed around the edges of the shelves, whispering my name in soft, wet tones. I could smell something metallic, iron-like, mixed with the faint bleach lingering from the cleaning crew hours earlier. My stomach churned. I tried calling the manager on my walkie-talkie. Dead air. I tried my phone, no signal. The store lights flickered violently, then dimmed, then brightened, creating the illusion that the shadows were moving closer with each pulse. I had to get out. I ran toward the stockroom, hoping for a back exit. Every step echoed through the empty aisles. I passed the dairy section, the produce, the snack aisles. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, becoming a chorus of names, dates, threats, predictions. I could feel them pressing against me, tangible in the air. Then I saw it, the price tag of a box of frozen pizza. It displayed a date, a time, and my name. My name. I couldn't breathe. My legs gave out. I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. I was trapped, helpless. The shadows were everywhere now, stretching along the floor, crawling up the shelves, shifting as if alive. A soft chuckle echoed through the store. Not a laugh, not human. Something wet, low, intimate. I tried to stand. My arms trembled. My legs trembled. The shadows started moving toward me faster, flowing like liquid, reaching toward me, whispering, calling, laughing. I stumbled, tripping over a pallet. The cart crashed to the floor. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the store. The fluorescent lights flickered violently. In the reflection of the freezer doors, I could see dozens of shadowy faces pressed against the glass, pale, wet, grinning, staring directly at me. I scrambled to my feet and ran. My lungs burned. My heart pounded in my ears. Every aisle, every corner, every product seemed to follow me. I reached the front doors, slammed my hands against them. Nothing. Locked. Automatic sensors dead. The intercom crackled again. "You can't leave yet, Jordan. Not until we're done." The voice was soft, intimate, knowing every detail of my life. My mind reeled. I could feel the shadows pressing closer, whispers all around me, moving through the store like water. I backed into the first aisle I could find. My hands shook violently, gripping a broom like it was a weapon. The shadows spread along the floor, creeping toward me, pooling, reaching. I could smell iron now, thick, cloying. I gagged. The whispers became voices I recognized, my friends, my family, twisted, distorted, telling me I couldn't escape. The lights flickered out completely. Total darkness. I couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't breathe properly. The whispers surrounded me, pressing against my ears. My name repeated over and over. I was trapped. Then suddenly the lights returned. Everything seemed normal. The shadows were gone. The aisles were empty. The products were in their usual places. The front doors opened automatically. I ran. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I drove straight home, chest pounding, tears streaming. Weeks later, I still can't shake it. Every time I see a price tag, I check it twice. Every time my phone buzzes, I flinch. And sometimes in my apartment, I swear I can see the numbers flicker. Dates changing, whispering my name in the corner of my vision. I know the store is still there. I know the shadows are still waiting. And I know, if I ever go back, they'll be watching, marking the dates of my life again, waiting for the next moment they can claim. Because the price tag horror doesn't end. I always hated the security cameras on the overnight shift. Not because they didn't work, they worked fine, but because I could feel them. Always. Watching. Following. Every aisle, every corner. And that night I realized they weren't just cameras. It started in aisle 12. I was doing inventory, scanning barcodes, when the feed on my handheld device froze. The screen went black for a few seconds, then flickered back on. But it wasn't the usual camera angles. The feed was static, dark, grainy, and I could see myself, not from the camera angle. No, from every angle. From the ceiling, the floor, even inside the shelves. My stomach dropped. I moved, and the feed moved exactly with me. I ducked behind a pallet of cleaning supplies. The camera feed followed. I peeked out. Still followed. My breath quickened. Every time I tried to hide, it was there, watching, recording, knowing. I tried to radio the manager. Dead air. My phone didn't work. The hum of the fluorescent light seemed louder now, pulsing, syncing with my heartbeat. I could feel my pulse thundering in my ears. Then I noticed something. In the grainy camera feed, there were shadows. Not mine. Not just shadows cast by the lights. Dark, moving forms that slid along the edges of the shelves, curling and stretching like liquid. They weren't fully human, but not completely abstract either. They were watching me, and through the feed I could see them. Everywhere. I ran down the aisle trying to reach the front, but every turn I made, the feed showed me exactly where I was going. It anticipated my moves. The shadows multiplied, pressing against the edges of the shelves in the video feed, whispering, calling, sliding closer. I tried shutting off the cameras. Nothing. Power switches, breakers, unplugging cables, every attempt failed. The screens flickered, static crackling, and then back on. And every time the feed showed me in places I hadn't even been yet. I could hear whispers through the store intercom now, soft, overlapping, distorted. Names, places, dates. My own name repeated over and over. My skin crawled. My stomach twisted. I couldn't breathe. I ran toward the stockroom, hoping to escape. The shadows in the camera feed seemed to ooze off the screens, creeping toward me in real life now. Every reflection, every glint of metal, every polished tile seemed to hold their shapes. I could feel them pressing against me. The lights flickered violently. I stumbled, tripping over a box. My hands were shaking. The shadows on the feed were reaching through the screens, pressing their dark, wet forms against the edges of the monitors, whispering, laughing. I scrambled to my feet, heart pounding. I tried the emergency exit, locked, my keycard didn't work. The shadows were moving now, spreading along the aisles in the store itself. Not just the feed, real, alive. Pressing against the shelves, pooling at the corners, curling around the carts. I backed into the frozen food section. The cameras above me flickered on and off, casting long shadows that seemed to move independently of anything in the store. I could feel the presence of those figures surrounding me, waiting, patient. Their whispers were a chorus now, overlapping, urgent, demanding my attention. I grabbed a broom, desperate, trying to defend myself. The shadows flowed around it, moving like liquid, pressing and curling. The temperature dropped sharply. My breath came in visible clouds. The smell of iron, wet and metallic, filled the aisle. I realized then I was trapped. Every camera in the store was on me, showing me to them. The shadows weren't just shadows, they were eyes, watching, recording, following. And now I was part of their feed. I ran. Down every aisle, twisting and turning, trying to lose them. But every corner, every aisle, every reflection showed them. I could see myself running in the feed, the shadows slipping closer, whispering. I was in their world, their vision, their game. Finally, I reached the front. The automatic doors slid open. I bolted into the parking lot, lungs burning, heart hammering. My hands were slick with sweat. I dared to glance back. The store was dark, quiet, normal. But I knew the cameras were still on, watching, recording, waiting. Weeks later, I can't look at a security camera without panic clawing at my chest. Every reflection, every screen, every polished surface, eyes. Watching, following, recording, waiting for the next night. Because I know now. The cameras aren't just cameras. They're theirs. And if I ever go back, they'll be ready. The first thing I noticed was the aisle itself. It wasn't supposed to be there. I had walked past aisle 12 100 times, stacked with cereal, snacks, and soda. That night, though, when I turned the corner after stocking the frozen foods, there it was. Aisle 13, unlabeled, dark, longer than it should have been. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long, twisted shadows across the floor. I rubbed my eyes. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I had been up too long on the overnight shift, but the aisle stretched farther than it should have. The walls seemed to extend endlessly, shelves towering higher than the store's ceiling. My stomach twisted. Something wasn't right. I stepped forward, telling myself I'd just check the end of the aisle and turn back. The floor tiles seemed to stretch with every step, elongating like the aisle itself was alive. I could hear the soft hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, but there was something else. A low, almost imperceptible whisper, like the floor was calling my name. I tried to turn around. The entrance had vanished. The end of the aisle stretched farther, walls bending slightly, shelves multiplying. Panic gripped my chest. I stumbled forward, heartbeat pounding, legs trembling. Every step made the fluorescent lights flicker, sending shadows crawling across the walls like living creatures. The shelves were stocked with products I didn't recognize. Nothing familiar. Boxes of cereal with strange symbols, cans of soup labeled in languages I didn't know, bottles of soda that shimmered oddly under the flickering lights. My stomach churned. My hands trembled as I reached for a box, and the label changed in my hands. Words rearranged themselves, spelling out my name, my apartment number, my birth date. I backed away, tripping over a pallet that appeared out of nowhere. My hand scraped across the cold tile. The whispering grew louder, overlapping. Multiple voices now, soft and urgent. They weren't speaking a language I recognized, but I understood them perfectly. Stay. Don't leave, follow. I ran. Down the aisle, twisting left, right, hoping to find an exit. But every turn led to another corner of the same endless aisle. The walls stretched on, bending the lights, shadows crawling along the edges. The products shifted as I passed, forming faces, screaming silently, their mouths opening and closing without sound. I grabbed a shopping cart, hoping to use it as a barrier or a weapon. The cart moved before I touched it, slowly, deliberately rolling toward me as if guided by some unseen hand. I yelped and jumped back. The cart stopped. The whispers grew louder, circling me, pressing against my ears. I could feel the weight of them, tangible, oppressive. I tried calling the manager on my walkie-talkie. Static. Nothing. My phone? Dead. The lights overhead flickered violently, then dimmed until the aisle was barely lit. I could see shadows moving along the floor, stretching toward me, curling up the shelves, reaching out. I could feel them pressing against me, brushing my shoulders, my arms, my back. I stumbled, nearly falling, and landed in front of a freezer I didn't remember being there. The glass door rattled, cold mist rising from inside. I leaned closer, and my reflection, or something like it, appeared in the glass. But it wasn't me. My eyes were hollow, black voids. My mouth stretched in a grin that I would never make. I bolted, ignoring the freezer, running further down the aisle. The shadows followed, slipping around the edges of the shelves, pressing against the products, merging, separating, moving with impossible speed. Every time I thought I had outrun them, they were ahead of me, just at the edge of my vision, whispering my name, breathing down my neck. I tried to hide behind a pallet of frozen goods. The whispers grew frantic, circling me like a storm. The aisle seemed to stretch farther, walls bending unnaturally, the ceiling higher, the lights dimming. I could smell something metallic, iron mixed with cold chemicals, making my stomach churn. The shadows pressed against the pallet. I could feel their weight, heavy and wet like something alive. I scrambled to my feet, running again. The aisle never ended. Every turn led me deeper into the same stretch of fluorescent-lit horror. The products shifted as I passed, now forming human shapes, screaming, reaching, writhing, mouths opening in silent terror. I stumbled, caught my foot on the edge of a box, and fell forward. My palms scraped across the floor. I could feel them, shadows pressing up from the tiles, touching my skin, curling around my arms and legs. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the aisle. The shadows tightened their grip, moving faster now, merging into shapes that were almost human but completely wrong. I could feel their presence inside my mind, whispering, pressing, urging me to follow them, to stay. Then, in the distance, I saw light. A flicker of the normal store lights, the familiar glow of the front of the store. I ran toward it, ignoring the whispers, ignoring the shadows that clawed at my arms, my legs. The aisle bent unnaturally, curving around corners I hadn't seen before, stretching endlessly. I screamed again, feeling panic clawing at my chest. I finally reached the end, or at least I thought I did. A door, automatic, sliding open. I bolted through it, gasping, lungs burning, heart pounding. I stumbled into the parking lot. the cold night air hitting my face, trying to calm my racing mind. I didn't look back. Not once. When I reached my car, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. I glanced at the store. Everything looked normal. Fluorescent lights steady, aisles neat, cars in the lot as they should be. Nothing unusual. But I knew the truth. The aisle was still there, waiting, twisting, endless, and the shadows. They were still inside, watching, whispering, calling. I haven't gone back. I can't. Every time I walk past a Walmart at night, I feel the pull of that endless aisle. I can hear the whispers faintly in my ears, the stretch of the shelves in my peripheral vision. I can feel the cold brush against my skin, the weight of the shadows pressing from the walls. Sometimes I dream of it. Endless fluorescent aisles stretching forever, products shifting into faces, the shadows reaching out. I wake up sweating, heart racing, and for a moment I can still feel them on my skin, because I know now. The aisle never ends. And one day, if I'm foolish enough to return, I'll step inside and I'll never find the exit. It was just after midnight when I started my shift at the self-checkout section. The store was nearly empty, and the hum of the fluorescent lights was the only sound beyond the faint whir of the registers. I had worked the overnight shift for months and thought I was used to the odd noises and flickering lights. But that night, something about the price scanner felt wrong. I was scanning a box of cereal when the screen blinked strangely. Normally it shows the price, maybe a beep if the code isn't recognized. But this time, the screen displayed my full name in bright, bold letters. I froze, heart hammering, scanning the box again. The screen didn't change. It just sat there, displaying my name, staring back at me like it knew me. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I laughed nervously. Must be a glitch, I muttered to myself. But then I noticed the next item, a bag of frozen peas. The screen displayed the date of my first kiss, precise to the day. I dropped the bag, stomach twisting. It had to be a coincidence. Maybe a hack? Some sort of prank? I grabbed another item, a pack of batteries. The scanner blinked again, and this time it displayed the date and exact time of a car accident my neighbor had survived. My hands shook as I backed away. My heart was pounding in my ears, and I could feel a cold sweat forming at the base of my neck. Then the screen flashed again, faster this time. Lines of text scrolling across it. Names, dates, events I had never told anyone. My manager, my coworkers, friends, family. Every detail, every secret, every memory I had ever thought was private, displayed in real time as I scanned items. I dropped the scanner completely and stumbled back. The hum of the lights grew louder, almost deafening. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the floor, twisting and curling toward me. I could feel them, pressing, brushing against my arms, legs, chest. The air grew thick, metallic, like iron mixed with bleach. My stomach churned. I ran toward the back of the store, trying to find the manager or another employee. Every aisle looked the same, eerily quiet. The overhead lights flickered violently, casting elongated, unnatural shadows. And then I heard it, a whisper. Soft, urgent, almost intimate. "My name is Jordan." I froze, my pulse raced. The whispering came again, overlapping, echoing from every direction. It wasn't human. Not entirely. The sound pressed against my mind, curling around my thoughts. I stumbled forward, desperate to escape. But the aisle seemed longer than it should have been. Every corner I turned, every shelf I passed, the whispering grew louder, pressing closer. Then I saw it. The scanners. Every single self-checkout scanner along the row had my face on the screen. My eyes, my expression twisted in fear. Each scanner blinked in unison, beeping softly, displaying different moments of my life. The first time I failed a test, the moment I lied to a friend, the night I had a terrible fight with my family, all displayed with eerie precision. I backed away, tripping over a pallet. My palms scraped the cold tile floor. The shadows moved faster now, crawling along the shelves, wrapping around the edges of the scanners, merging and splitting like liquid. I could hear faint, wet laughter echoing through the empty aisles. I tried to call my manager again. Dead air, my phone, dead. The hum of the fluorescent lights now felt like it was vibrating through my bones, syncing with my heartbeat. I could smell something thick, metallic, and suffocating. My stomach churned violently. I grabbed a shopping cart, desperate for a barrier. The shadows pressed against it, cold, wet, heavy. The scanners beeped in unison, a slow, deliberate rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Every beep felt like it was pressing into my chest, squeezing, suffocating. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, gasping for breath. Then I realized the screens weren't just showing my past. They were predicting my future. One scanner displayed a date, a time, and a name. Mine. I felt my chest tighten. My breath hitched. My stomach dropped. I could feel it, something inevitable, something waiting. I ran. Down the aisles, twisting, turning, trying to escape. The shadows followed, flowing along the shelves, pressing against my legs, crawling up my arms. The screens flashed rapidly, displaying moments I hadn't even lived yet. Decisions, mistakes, horrors I could feel but not yet understand. I stumbled into the frozen food section. The lights flickered, casting long shadows across the tiles. I could see my reflection in the glass doors of the freezers, but it wasn't me. My eyes were black voids, my mouth stretched in a grin I would never make. The scanners behind me blinked, displaying the same distorted version of me over and over. I tried to shut the scanners down. Power buttons, unplugging cables, nothing worked. Every screen flickered, then returned to showing my life, my secrets, my future. The whispers intensified, voices overlapping, calling, pressing, pulling. I felt weight on my shoulders, my back, as if invisible hands were holding me down. I ran again, desperate. My lungs burned. My heart thundered. The shadows moved faster now, flowing along the aisles, pressing against every surface. The scanners blinked in unison, displaying my next steps, my next failures, my next fears. I was trapped in a store that knew me better than I knew myself. Finally, I reached the front doors. Automatic, sliding, open. I bolted outside, lungs burning, heart pounding, shaking uncontrollably. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I reached my car and fumbled with the keys, hands slick with sweat. When I glanced back, the store looked normal. Fluorescent lights steady, aisles neat. No shadows moving along the shelves. But I knew. I knew the scanners were still on. Watching, recording, waiting. Weeks later, I can't go near a self-checkout without panicking. Every scanner, every screen, every reflective surface, it could be showing my secrets, my past, my future. I can still hear the whispers sometimes, faint, insistent, pressing against my thoughts because I know now. The price scanner doesn't just scan products. It scans you. Every memory, every secret, every choice. And if you stay too long, it won't just know you, it will follow you. Even now, when I close my eyes at night, I see the scanners blinking. I hear the soft, deliberate beep, and I feel the shadows pressing closer, whispering my name, waiting for the moment I'm foolish enough to scan something again. The first time I saw him, it was brief. Just a shadow at the entrance, smiling faintly, greeting me as if he had known me forever. I laughed it off at first, creepy, sure, but harmless. I didn't know that the midnight greeter wasn't just a person. He was something else, something that remembered you, followed you, waited for the right night to step out of the shadows. That night started like any other. I had been assigned the overnight shift in electronics, restocking shelves and tidying displays. The store was eerily quiet, only the hum of fluorescent lights overhead and the faint buzz of the cooling units in the back. Normally I liked the quiet. It helped me focus. But that night it felt wrong, too silent, too calm, like the store itself was holding its breath. I was stacking game consoles when I felt it, a presence. Not nearby, not immediately visible, but there, watching. I turned slowly, scanning the empty aisle. Nothing. I shook my head, muttering to myself. Get a grip, Jordan. But the chill that ran down my spine didn't leave. And then I saw him. At the far end of the electronics aisle, just past the display of TVs, a man stood. Mid-30s, neatly dressed, name tag glinting under the flickering lights. His smile was too wide, too calm. He waved, but there was something unnatural in the way he moved. Slow, deliberate, almost gliding. Hey there, he said softly. Welcome back, my stomach sank. Thanks, I muttered, but my voice sounded strange in the cavernous aisle. Do I know you? He tilted his head, smile never faltering. We've met before. Don't you remember? I shook my head. I didn't remember. No one knew I worked this shift. No one had come in this late, and yet, something about him made my skin crawl. I turned back to the shelves, trying to focus, but I could feel his gaze on me. Every time I glanced over, he was closer, but he never seemed to walk. He just appeared, Minutes passed, or maybe hours, I couldn't tell. Time felt twisted. The fluorescent lights flickered unevenly, casting long shadows along the shelves. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward me, curling, pressing, alive. The hum of the lights grew louder, vibrating through my chest. I tried to ignore him, stacking the last few boxes of video games. And then I heard it, a soft, deliberate clap, slow, single, echoing across the aisle. I froze. My hands trembled. The midnight greeter was there, standing directly behind me now. I hadn't seen him move, but there he was, grinning, calm, eyes too wide, too knowing. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "I just want to play a little game." I laughed nervously, trying to convince myself it was a prank or a hallucination. I don't have time for games right now." My voice sounded weak, cracked. He tilted his head. "Oh, you do. Everyone has time at night. Especially here." I backed away, but the aisle seemed to stretch longer than it should have. Shelves multiplied, twisting, bending, elongating into impossible shapes. I could hear faint whispers now, coming from the products themselves. Names, dates, secrets I had never told anyone. My stomach churned. "Don't fight it," the midnight greeter said. His voice was calm, almost soothing, but underneath it, there was something predatory. "You'll have fun if you just follow the rules." I stumbled backward, hitting a stack of TVs. My hands shook as I reached for the phone, trying to call the manager. No signal, dead air. The intercom? Silent. The store lights flickered violently, plunging parts of the aisle into darkness. And then the whispers grew louder, circling me, pressing in. The midnight greeter moved closer. I could feel his presence now, tangible, pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. His eyes, they weren't just looking at me. They were inside me, inside my thoughts, my memories, my fears. "You can't leave," he whispered, almost too soft to hear. "Not yet. The game isn't over." Panic clawed at my chest. I spun, running down the aisle, trying to reach the front doors. But every corner I turned, the aisle stretched further, bending, twisting, multiplying. Products I had never seen lined the shelves. Boxes with faces pressed against them, screaming silently. Shadows flowed along the floor, pressing at my ankles, wrapping around the shelves, whispering my name. I stumbled, falling against a pallet of frozen electronics. My hand scraped the cold tile. The midnight greeter appeared beside me in an instant. I hadn't seen him move, yet he was there, smiling, calm, waiting. "Play with me," he said softly. "It's simple. Just follow the rules." "What? What rules?" I stammered, chest heaving. He pointed toward a row of scanners. Self-checkout stations I hadn't noticed before. Screens flickered on, displaying my name, my face, my past, my secrets. I realized then that every scanner, every reflective surface, every product in this twisted aisle was part of the game. It had been watching me all night, studying me, learning me. "Scan the items," he whispered. "Do it right and you get to leave. Make a mistake, and you stay forever." My hands shook violently. I backed away. I can't." He tilted his head, grin widening impossibly. "You already started. You're in. There's no turning back." I stumbled forward, scanning items blindly. The scanners beeped erratically, displaying moments of my life I had never shared, every secret, every fear. Shadows pressed against the screens, writhing, stretching. Faces appeared in the reflections. Friends, family, strangers, all screaming silently, reaching toward me. I made a mistake. A package scanned wrong. The midnight greeter's smile widened. Shadows surged from the shelves, pressing against me, curling around my legs, arms, chest. Whispers became screams. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. "Try again," he whispered. "Play. Or stay." I scanned faster, trembling, hands slick with sweat. Shadows pressed harder, whispering, clawing, pressing into my mind. Every wrong scan made them surge closer, voices overlapping, screaming, laughing, crying. Hours or maybe minutes passed. Time had no meaning. Every corner I turned, every aisle I ran through, the midnight greeter appeared ahead of me. Calm, grinning, patient. The store had become a labyrinth, a nightmare maze where reality twisted, shelves elongated, shadows flowed like water, and the whispers never stopped. I finally reached the frozen food section. The lights flickered violently, casting the midnight greeter's shadow across the floor, twisting, multiplying, crawling toward me. I tripped over a box, falling hard. Cold tiles scraped my palms. Shadows pressed against me, whispering, reaching. I scrambled to my feet. My lungs burned. My heart thundered. I could see the scanners ahead. Screens flickering, shadows writhing, faces screaming silently in the reflections. I ran, hands shaking, scanning item after item, desperately trying to follow the rules, desperately trying to escape. And then, I saw the exit. The front doors, light, freedom. I sprinted toward it, heart hammering, lungs on fire. I reached the doors, sliding open automatically. I bolted into the parking lot, gasping, shaking uncontrollably. When I glanced back, the store was normal. Fluorescent lights steady, aisles neat, everything in its place. But I knew the midnight greeter was still inside, waiting, watching, smiling. Weeks later, I can't go near Walmart after midnight. I hear the faint whispers sometimes, faint as a shadow brushing my shoulder. Every reflective surface, every scanner, every aisle, he's still there. Patient, waiting, because the midnight greeter never forgets. He waits, he watches, and one day if I'm foolish enough to return, he will be there, greeting me once more, and I know then I won't be leaving. It started as a joke. I had finished my overnight shift, dragging myself out of the fluorescent-lit abyss of Walmart around 3 a.m., and the parking lot was empty. I had pushed an old squeaky cart from the electronics section to the front doors because the cart return was half a mile away. I didn't think much of it. It was late, I was tired, and the cart was heavy, but nothing more. I locked my car, threw my backpack on the passenger seat, and walked to the driver's door. When I glanced back, I froze. The cart was following me. At first, I thought I imagined it, a trick of the light, a shadow stretching across the asphalt. But then it moved again, inching closer, the wheels squeaking softly, deliberately. My stomach twisted. No one was around. No cars, no employees, no cameras visible, just me in that cart. I picked up the pace. The cart followed. I ran, it followed. I didn't dare look behind me fully, but I could hear the wheels scraping against the concrete, getting closer with every step. My breath came fast, ragged, heart hammering. I fumbled with the car door, slammed it shut, locked it, and sat inside, trying to calm my shaking hands. Nothing happened for a moment. Silence. I exhaled slowly. Maybe it was just me. Fatigue, paranoia, too many nights working alone. Then the cart hit the side of my car. Hard. A metallic clang that reverberated through the frame. I screamed, fumbling with the keys. The cart moved again, circling the car, squeaking like it had intent, like it knew where I was. I sped off, tires squealing. The cart followed. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror. The cart, no human pushing it, rolled behind me, matching my speed, gliding along the road, keeping pace. Panic surged through me like a tidal wave. I swerved, hoping to lose it, turned sharply onto side streets. Nothing. Every turn, the cart was there, waiting, patient, silent except for the faint squeak of its wheels. I wanted to believe I was imagining it, but the way it moved, deliberate as if alive, it was impossible to explain. I reached my apartment complex, heart racing. I parked in my usual spot, hoping to lose it there. I jumped out of the car, slammed the door, and ran to my apartment. I dared a glance back. The cart was in the parking lot, motionless. I shook my head, laughing nervously, trying to convince myself it was over. That night, sleep didn't come. Every creak of the building, every rustle outside my window made my stomach twist. And then I heard it. A soft, familiar squeak. I froze. My bedroom door was closed. The sound came from the hallway. My stomach dropped. Slowly, cautiously, I peeked out. There it was. The Walmart cart. Wheels turning silently, slowly rolling toward my apartment door. Alone. No one around. No visible source of motion. Just the cart coming for me. I slammed the door, shaking. My phone dead. The lights flickered. Shadows stretched along the walls like fingers reaching out. I could hear soft whispers, names, dates, events, things I had never told anyone. Every time I tried to move, the cart moved silently, following, pressing closer. I barricaded the door with furniture. It didn't matter. The cart kept coming. I could feel its presence pressing, waiting, patient. Every creak of the wheels against the floor sent shivers down my spine. The shadows in my apartment twisted, merging with the cart's movements, flowing along the walls, pressing against me, whispering my name. I tried calling 911. No signal. My apartment phone dead. Every electronic device in the room flickered, then went dark. The cart was closer now. I could see its metal frame, the chipped paint, the slightly rusted handle. But it wasn't just a cart anymore. It seemed alive, like it had intent, like it could think. I backed into a corner, my chest heaving, hands shaking uncontrollably. The cart stopped mere inches from me. Silence. Then slowly, deliberately, it tilted, as if acknowledging me, as if warning me. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My throat was tight, lungs burning. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. I had no sense of time. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of light made my heart pound. I stayed pressed against the corner, watching, waiting, knowing the cart was patient. It didn't need to rush. It could wait. And it would. I finally fell asleep, sitting in the corner, exhausted. When I woke, the cart was gone. I exhaled shakily, convinced the nightmare was over. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Over the next few nights, the cart returned. Always at 3 a.m., always rolling silently through my apartment, waiting, patient. I tried moving it, hiding it, even locking it outside. It always found a way back, always. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly. The cart became the center of my life. I couldn't leave my apartment, couldn't ignore it, couldn't escape. Every night I watched, waited, knowing it would appear. And every night the whispers grew louder. Names, dates, secrets, memories I had never shared with anyone, all pressed into my mind by the cart's presence. One night, I tried to confront it. I grabbed a broom, holding it like a weapon. The cart rolled forward, slowly, deliberately. I swung at it, nothing. Metal, solid. But then it moved faster, faster than possible, stopping just inches from my face. I could feel its cold metal pressing against my forehead. And then, it tilted, just slightly. The handle moved like it was acknowledging me, watching me, judging me. I screamed, threw the broom down, and ran. I didn't stop. I left my apartment, left the cart behind. I ran across the parking lot into the street, hoping someone, anyone, would notice. Cars swerved, horns blaring, but no one could see it. No one could see the cart rolling silently behind me, wheels squeaking, always patient. I reached a diner, shaking, tears streaming down my face. I tried to explain. The cashier stared at me blankly. No one else noticed. I looked outside. Empty parking lot. No cart, but I knew. I could feel it, patient, waiting. I haven't returned home since. I stay in hotels, motels, friends' houses, but the cart finds a way. Always, eventually, it finds a way. I've tried ignoring it, throwing it away, abandoning it, but nothing works. It's patient, eternal. Waiting for the moment I am foolish enough to stop running. Sometimes late at night I dream of the cart, rolling silently across the aisles of Walmart, following me through the streets, gliding into my apartment. Shadows stretch along its frame, merging with it, whispering names, dates, secrets, events I can't escape. I wake up screaming, sweating, heart pounding, and I know it's still out there. Watching, waiting, patient. Because I know now. The cart doesn't just follow you through the store. Once it finds you, it never stops, and I also know, one day it will catch me. I was in the clearance aisle late into my overnight shift when I first noticed it. The price tags, small white rectangles usually dull and lifeless, were moving. Not fluttering like a breeze, but writhing subtly, almost like they were alive. At first I thought I was hallucinating. The fluorescent lights were flickering again, and I'd been on my feet for hours, scanning, stocking, and tidying. I leaned closer to a box of discounted cereal. The tag twitched. I froze, my breath caught. The tag seemed to pulse, rising and falling as though it were breathing. A low, wet sound accompanied it, soft, rhythmic, almost imperceptible at first. My stomach twisted. I looked around. The aisle was empty. I picked up another item, a pack of soda, and the same thing happened. The tag twitched, pulsing, a faint whisper escaping from it. My fingers trembled as I dropped the soda. I backed away slowly, heart hammering. Something wasn't right. The tags were alive. I reached for my walkie-talkie. "Manager, anyone? You there?" Dead air. My phone? No signal. The hum of the lights grew louder, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. Shadows stretched across the floor, curling along the shelves. The low, wet breathing sound intensified. I realized then, the price tags weren't just moving. They were watching. Names, dates, and times flickered across the tiny screens on the tags. My name, my birthday, my apartment number, moments of my past I had never shared. Every detail displayed on these small, seemingly insignificant labels. My hands shook violently. I backed away, stumbling over a pallet. The whispers started then. Soft, layered, overlapping. Names, dates, secrets, threats. The voices seemed to come from the tags themselves, pressing into my mind, curling around my thoughts. Every tag I looked at pulsed, breathing, whispering, alive. I ran down the aisle, trying to escape, but the shelves seemed to stretch endlessly. Every corner, every row, every stack of products displayed new tags with my personal information. The shadows moved along the edges of the shelves, pressing, curling, writhing. My stomach churned. I could feel their presence in the air, cold, metallic, oppressive. I tried to leave, heading toward the front of the store, but the aisle bent unnaturally, elongating, twisting. The fluorescent lights flickered violently, casting shadows that seemed to move independently. The whispers grew louder, urgent, overlapping into a chorus of names and dates. I reached the electronics section. The tags on the gadgets pulsed violently now. Not just breathing. They were alive, writhing, twisting, forming faces, mouths opening silently, screaming, gasping, whispering. I could see my reflection in the glossy screens. My eyes wide with fear, mouth open in a silent scream, but then my reflection twisted. Hollow eyes. A grin I would never make. I stumbled backward into a pallet of game consoles. My hands scraped the cold tile. The shadows pressed against me, curling around the edges of the shelves, moving like liquid. Every tag I glanced at displayed a moment of my life. Some past event, some future possibility. Names, faces, accidents, mistakes, everything. The store had learned me, knew me, and now it was breathing. Alive. Waiting. I backed into the frozen food section. The tags there pulsed violently, almost in unison, breathing in rhythm, whispering my name. I could feel the cold mist from the freezers pressing against my face, smell the metallic tang of iron, taste the panic in my mouth. The shadows pressed closer, curling along the shelves, reaching, whispering. I grabbed a shopping cart, desperate for a barrier, but it moved on its own, wheels squeaking, coming toward me as though guided by the store itself. The tags on the products twisted toward me, pulsing, writhing, each displaying a different moment of my life, every secret I had ever held. I ran again, weaving through the aisles. The tags followed, twitching, pulsing, breathing. Shadows moved along the edges, merging with the lights, curling, pressing. I tried to cover my eyes, block it out, but even closing my eyes didn't help. The whispers, the pulse of the tags, the weight of the shadows, it was all inside me. Pressing, knowing, learning, waiting. I reached the checkout lane. Self-checkout screens flickered violently, displaying my life, my secrets, my fears. The tags on the items I tried to scan twisted, pulsing, writhing, forming faces. Faces I recognized, faces I feared. Screaming silently, reaching toward me, mouths opening and closing without sound. I stumbled, falling, hands scraping across the tile. Shadows pressed harder, wrapping around my arms, legs, chest. The tags twisted, breathing, whispering, forming impossible shapes. The store itself seemed alive now. The fluorescent lights pulsed with my heartbeat. Every sound, every whisper, every movement pressed into me, heavy, relentless. I tried to escape through the stockroom. The tags on the boxes twisted violently, faces forming, screaming, whispering. Shadows flowed along the edges, pressing against me, curling around my feet, dragging me back. The fluorescent lights flickered violently, casting long, twisted shadows that merged with the tags, forming faces, mouths, hands that reached toward me. I stumbled outside into the parking lot, chest heaving, lungs burning, hands shaking. The tags, the shadows, the whispers, they followed. Every reflective surface, every screen, every sign displayed my name, my life, my secrets. Even the parking lot lights flickered, shadows stretching impossibly long, curling around me. I ran to my car, fumbling with the keys, trying to escape. But the tags were still there in my mind, whispering, pulsing, breathing. I drove away, heart pounding, but I could feel them, waiting, patient. They didn't need to chase. They would always find me. Weeks later, I can't go near the clearance aisle. Every time I see a price tag, a small white rectangle, I flinch. Every tag could be breathing, watching, whispering, knowing. I can't shop in stores. I can't pass signs or displays without panicking. Even at home, I see tags in my mind, twitching, breathing, whispering my name. Because I know now. The price tags aren't just tags. They're alive. They remember you, watch you, study you, and one day if I'm careless enough to scan something again, they'll mark me, and I won't escape. I can feel them still, even now. Every time I blink, a tag pulses somewhere in the shadows, waiting, watching, breathing, and I know the store never forgets. It started with a whisper. I was doing inventory in aisle 7 deep into the overnight shift when I first heard it. My name soft, almost polite, but with an undertone that made my stomach knot. "Jordan." The voice was faint, coming from the far end of the aisle. I froze, heart thudding so loud I was sure the fluorescent lights would flicker with it. I turned slowly, scanning the shelves. Nothing. Empty aisles stretched ahead, stocked with ordinary products, canned vegetables, boxed cereals, paper towels. Nothing unusual. I shook my head. "Get a grip," I muttered. But the whisper came again, closer this time, clearer. "Jordan." Right here, my skin crawled. I wasn't alone. Not physically, at least. But the store itself seemed aware, watching, waiting. I took a cautious step forward. The whisper stopped. Silence. But then the aisle shifted. The shelves, normally straight and even, bent slightly, elongating, stretching toward me like the aisle itself was alive. I stumbled backward. The fluorescent lights flickered violently, casting long, crawling shadows across the floor. I could feel the air thicken, press down on my shoulders, and then I saw it. The labels on the products, soda cans, cereal boxes, cleaning supplies, each one had my name written on it. Not printed, handwritten, not in the same style, but in different handwriting, some messy, some neat. All my name, Jordan. I backed away, stomach twisting. I hadn't touched these items before. Nobody had, and yet, there it was. My name, the whisper came again, urgent now, overlapping, echoing. "Jordan, come this way." "Don't look away," and I ran, down the aisle, trying to reach the end. But the aisle stretched farther than it should have, bending, twisting, impossible geometry. Every turn led me back to the same spot. Labels with my name stared at me from every angle. I could feel eyes on me, not human, not fully. Shadows curled along the floor, stretching up the shelves, reaching, whispering. I stumbled, almost falling, and grabbed a display of cereal boxes. The labels on the boxes changed as I touched them. My name again and again, along with dates, times, secrets. One box displayed the night I had a fight with my mother. Another, the exact moment I accidentally broke a neighbor's window. Every mistake, every regret, every detail of my life flashed before me on these boxes. I backed up into a freezer. The cold mist from inside made my breath visible. I could see my reflection, or a version of it, in the glass. Hollow eyes, a grin I would never make. I stumbled sideways, almost knocking over the freezer, and the aisle shifted again. I was trapped. The aisle knew me. Every label, every reflection, every shadow, it all remembered, all waited. The whispering intensified, voices layering on top of each other, overlapping. "Jordan, Jordan, Jordan, follow." I ran. Every turn, every corner, every stack of products displayed more details about my life. Things I hadn't told anyone. Names of people I trusted. Secrets I thought buried. Memories I had long forgotten. All displayed on the products like some sick, twisted scrapbook. The shadows pressed against me. Tangible now, curling around my ankles, my legs, my arms. The aisle bent impossibly, stretching, twisting, merging with the darkness. The fluorescent lights flickered, dimmed, and then stuttered back on. Shadows danced on the walls, multiplying, stretching, twisting into impossible shapes. I tried the intercom. Dead air. My phone? No signal. Even the store cameras seemed off, flickering, showing angles I hadn't noticed before. Angles that made the aisle look impossibly long, impossibly twisted. I realized then that I wasn't just being watched, I was part of the store now. I stumbled into the frozen food section. The labels on the frozen products pulsed, glowing faintly, breathing, whispering my name. Shadows stretched along the edges, curling, pressing, twisting. I could smell something metallic, iron mixed with the cold chemicals from the freezers. My stomach churned violently. I backed into a pallet of frozen vegetables. The whispers became clearer. "Don't fight it. Follow, you belong here." My hands shook. My chest tightened. My lungs burned. The aisle wasn't just alive, it was aware, it knew me. Every thought, every fear, every weakness, I tried to escape toward the front doors. The aisle bent, twisted, multiplying. Every time I reached a corner, another turn appeared. stretching the space impossibly. Every product displayed my name, my memories, my fears. Shadows pressed from all sides. I felt like I was sinking, suffocating in the air itself. Then I saw a figure. At the far end, where the aisle bent impossibly, a man stood. Mid-30s, neat clothes, name tag glinting. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. The midnight greeter. He had been here all along, patient, waiting, watching. "You shouldn't have tried to leave," he said softly. "The aisle remembers. The aisle knows, and now, so do I tried to run. The aisle shifted again, twisting, stretching impossibly. The shelves bent, elongating, curling toward me. Shadows pressed against me from all sides. Every label, every reflection, every corner displayed my name, my past, my secrets. I could feel it in my chest, the weight of the aisle, the awareness, the focus of the midnight greeter. I stumbled, falling against a pallet. My hand scraped across the cold tile. Shadows pressed harder, curling around my arms, my legs, my chest. The whispering intensified, a chorus of names and dates, secrets and memories, all pressing into me, inside me. I tried to barricade myself behind a display of frozen foods. The aisle shifted, twisting impossibly. The midnight greeter glided forward without moving, appearing before me in an instant. "Play with me," he whispered. "Follow the aisle, or stay forever." My hands shook. I tried to move. I tried to run. But the aisle bent around me, twisting impossibly, every corner. Every product displaying my name, every shadow pressing, every whispering voice repeating my fears. I finally made it to the end, or what I thought was the end. A door automatic sliding. I bolted for it, heart hammering, lungs burning. The aisle stretched impossibly one last time. Shelves twisted, shadows reached, whispers screamed my name. I stumbled, tripping, falling forward. The midnight greeter appeared beside me, smiling, calm, patient. I scrambled to my feet and ran through the door. The store looked normal. Lights steady, aisles straight, products in their places. No shadows, no labels, no whispers. But I knew. I knew the aisle remembered, knew me. Watched me, waited. Weeks later, I can't go near aisle 7, or any aisle really. Every time I see shelves, every time I see labels, every time I see a corner, I flinch. Every product could be whispering my name, remembering me, marking me. Every aisle in the store could be alive, patient, waiting. Because I know now. The aisle knows you. Every fear, every secret, every memory. And one day, if I'm foolish enough to step inside, it will remember everything. And it won't let me leave. Even now, sometimes in the quiet, I hear it. Faint whispers curling around my thoughts. My name. Jordan? The aisle is patient. The midnight greeter is patient. And one day they will find me. Until then, I wait.